Welcome to Columbus, Ohio, the capital and largest city of the state of Ohio, which was one of the largest states in the North during the American Civil War. I'm standing on what was, at the time of the Civil War, known as Camp Chase, named in honor of Salmon P. Chase, who was a member of Abraham Lincoln's cabinet and eventually appointed to the United States Supreme Court. Camp Chase was originally set up as the main camp for the mustering in and training of new Union soldiers. Over 150,000 Ohio soldiers, the vast majority of Ohio soldiers, trained here at Camp Chase. Camp Chase had another purpose. It was also one of the largest prisoner of war camps for Confederate prisoners in the North. And like many of the prisoner of war camps on both sides, it was not a good place to be. The first Confederate soldiers to be brought to this place were around 2,000 or so that had been captured after the fall of Fort Donelson, when Grant demanded unconditional surrender, which meant there would be no parole, there would be no immediate release of those prisoners. They would be held until they could be exchanged. And so, looking for places to put them, the U.S. government chose Camp Chase as one of the locations to transport and house the Confederate soldiers that had been captured in western Tennessee. Well, much like Andersonville and Elmira in New York and many other prisoner of war camps, there was always a lack of quality facilities, whether it was for fresh drinking water, providing enough food, or just giving proper shelter. Between 1861 and 1865, when this camp was operational, over 25,000 Confederate soldiers were held here at various times. Also held here were civilians that were suspected of treasonous activities against the United States, including a member of Congress who was held here. At its peak in February of 1865, when many of the Confederate and Union prisoner exchanges had ceased, there were nearly 10,000 prisoners that were being held here at Camp Chase. By the time the camp closed and the war came to an end, this cemetery became the final resting place for over 2,200 Confederate soldiers who had died both here and at a smaller prisoner of war camp near in southwest Ohio. Well, there are conflicting accounts when you read a study of the American Civil War as to who the first Confederate casualty was of the war. Many accounts say that it was a young Confederate soldier who was killed at the Battle of Big Bethel in early June of 1861, but the most reliable accounts I can find actually put it a few weeks earlier, in late May of 1861. A soldier who is often known by different first names, but all of the accounts agree the last name was Roberts. It was most likely Christian Roberts, and he was shot by a patrol of Virginia Union soldiers. I don't remember the unit. I think it may have been the 2nd Virginia, which was a Union regiment. And there were 3 Confederate soldiers who were together. The one who was killed was Christian Roberts. The other 2 were Isaac Bartrug and his brother, or his cousin Sam Lemley. Now, Isaac Bartrug, whose name here says Barting, but like hundreds of the names in this cemetery, it's wrong. Isaac Bartrug happens to be the brother of my great-great-great-grandfather. My great-great-great-grandfather never served in the military, but his brothers Isaac and John did. Isaac enlisted in the 19th Virginia Cavalry. So too did his cousin Sam Lemley, enlisted in the Confederate Army. They both ended up captured, ended up here at Camp Chase, and both in separate incidents, which we don't fully know the details of. Both men were killed by guards here at Camp Chase. Unlike most prisoners of war camp, which were typically either for officers or for enlisted men, but rarely for both, there were a number of officers that were held here at Camp Chase. The officers who died during their time here or at the other prison are actually buried in a separate section of the cemetery, which you can see behind me here. Not real high-ranking officers, but we've got first lieutenants. We've got some sergeant majors in here. But mostly, it seems like the vast majority of them are first lieutenants. Most of the over 2,200 dead who are buried here at Camp Chase were buried here during the war. There were 90 or so that were brought here from the city cemetery in Columbus, the civilian cemetery, and buried here after the war, as well as over 100 who were claimed by family and removed from here. Among those who were claimed by family and removed from this place was my uncle Isaac Bartrug, who is buried in Burton, West Virginia today, but his marker remains for some strange reason here in the cemetery.